Well, tell you what, I won't send you a voice note. I'll send you a video clip. That way you have full, access to voice, everything. You can sense out whatever you sense out. So, yeah. I'm at a point where, because I've been hacking away at it so consistently for so long, I'm more comfortable saying it. But it just may happen that in the middle of me saying it, maybe I start getting all weird, and that's okay. I'll just let it be. I'm not gonna add more, to that. But I guess in a nutshell, for me, it stems around the conflict, the internal gut conflict of, is it me or is it my parents? Is it me or is it my parents? And for the longest, it was just the most confusing thing in the world. There was a part of me, and this really started around maybe, I don't know. I think it was shortly after the age of maybe 7 or 8. I think it was like shortly after 7 or 8 that things really boosted up. Because prior to like 6, 7, 8, when I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, there was a bit of, reprimand here and there. But as objective as I can be about it, I didn't think it was too bad, It was more towards like after that, more 7, 8, 9, 10 and onward. I have no idea how I deep down kind of knew that some of what, the way that my dad would go about things. I don't know how I knew it was wrong, but it was something that was telling me it was wrong, but at the same time, because he's my dad, that's my mom, they're right and I'm wrong, I'm the one who's problematic. It's this weird confusion. I could just, remember not, what do you call it? Probably in the span of a few years at least, what do you call it? Maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 wooden brooms snapped on me, all countless amount of slaps in the face with like his handprint. We would like you can like see the 3D shape of his hand, or like getting like a plastic shirt hanger, boom. And it wasn't like, oh no, it wasn't from a place of he's just attacked me randomly. It was usually during a reprimand of some sort. Yet in my head at the same time, even though he's reprimanding me for something, there was a part of me that was like, why does this feel like this is too cranked up? Like I couldn't put a finger to it. I could never put a finger to it. It's like, why is it that I feel that there's other people, there's other families, there's other parents that still reprimand in some way, but not at this level? And why is it that when I feel like defending myself, I can't defend myself? Because if I try to defend myself, they then see it as me attacking them or something. And then they, by they, my dad, then they might, go even more or something. So there was an element of that, all right? So like the reprimand severity, right? But then there was like a much more subtle thing. Because once I started to kind of come into some self-awareness about all this, the physical reprimanding severity, let's call it that, that's one thing. Now, in like hindsight, looking through like a lot of the material and stuff, I think for me the part that really did it, the damage, I guess, is the more quiet stuff, the more body language based behaviors. Like, One time he reprimanded me because he truly believed that I did something wrong. It was in fact inaccurate. So there was probably like maybe 5 or 10% of the time that I would get reprimanded, and like that 5 or 10% of the time I would be reprimanded for literally nothing, just because he thought I did something. And those very few times where like he would at some point realize, oh wait, he really didn't do anything, there wouldn't be like some apology from a place of, hey yo, Alex, yeah, that's my bad, hey, my bad, it would be from a place of he's still like pissed, and like I don't know, the apology would feel fraudulent. Basically, it wouldn't feel real. And in my head, I don't know how I know. Now I can confirm it with, not just me, but whatever. But at the time, deep down, I just knew that something's wrong about this. Something ain't right. I don't know. So sometime around maybe the age of maybe 13, 14, 15. I don't remember exactly when. There was this little moment where, like, to myself, I made like this pact to myself where it was like, I'm not gonna do this to my own people. Basically, I'm not gonna do this to my people. I'm not gonna treat them like this. Whoever my people may be, whether it's my kids, my own partner, or whatever. No, I don't know how I know or why I'm so confident that this is too much or excess or too emotionally distant or whatever. Somehow I just know, and whatever. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. One thing I didn't realize that in the way that I was brought up, it was such that I never really got to know my dad. And my mom, in some ways, at the time this wasn't obvious, but now that I reflect back, I never really learned who they were. They were like the kind of people that, yeah, they provided a house, housing, all that stuff, right? Roof over their head, the food, But it wasn't like, it's not like they would be vulnerable, like, share a story in the same way that I'm doing right now, in the same way that I do on a live or whatever, in the same way I was just doing in person or whatever, that I'm able to do now because I've been facing my shit like just head on and said, And so I didn't see a connection as a kid, because obviously I'm a kid. How do I know that? But in me not ever really being vulnerable with them, I didn't realize that, me not having that experience, I don't even know how to be like really vulnerable. I never really got to know my last partner. And in me not really getting to know my last partner, I didn't even realize that some of the very behaviors that I saw growing up, that I had made a pact to myself, like, that's not going to happen. I didn't realize that I was doing some of them. And the wildest part is coming into that self-awareness that, wait, well, hold on, but, I didn't mean to do that, but I did do that. And, wait a minute, hold on. When somebody's on the giving end, that feels different than on the receiving end. On the receiving end, that shit hurts. But on the giving end, it doesn't feel so bad. And I'm like, why is that? Oh, wait a minute, hold on. Because on the giving end, there's the element of like rationalizing. You start like making like these rational excuses. This makes sense because X, Y, Z. I have to do this to Alex right now because if I don't shut him up right now, we don't get to the place on time. So I'm going to rationalize this somewhat antisocial behavior, whatever the hell maybe. I didn't realize that I was doing the same thing. And so I'm like fast forwarding here a little bit. When at the time my girl at the time broke up with me, right? It was one of the most like weird / shame / like paradigm busting things to come to into some self-awareness that, wait a minute, I was doing some of these things, and I swore to everything I wasn't going to do some of these things. And that's when I hit like my own little fork in the road of like, this is that fork that a lot of people talk about. Like, so like this be the moment that a lot of people be like, they choose, well, this is who I am. It's just blah, 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 blah. And then every once in a while, I would hear somebody, meet this fork in the road and be like, you know what? I'm gonna change. I don't know how I'm gonna change, but I'm gonna change. And so when I, was faced with that fork of the road, I was like, oh, I got it. No brainer. I made a pact to myself I wasn't gonna do some of these things. I somehow did some of these things. And by some of these things, for example, let's call it gaslighting, for example. And I'll get more precise. I just won't say gaslighting. Here's like one precise moment that I can recall. It's the subtlest thing. It's the subtlest thing, and it's so weird. I can still remember like sitting on the bedside with, at the time, former partner. We were watching something on YouTube. It was like a documentary or something, and like I had this preconceived idea that I knew her better than she knew herself on some given topic. And when the video was rolling, I was like, hey, you ought to watch this right here, because this is it, right? For you, right? And to me, it made total sense that what the video was describing not only her thought process, but like the solution at the same time. It was something to that effect. And then basically near the end of the video, I said something to the effect of, so, how is that? How does that make sense? From her angle, it didn't make sense, it really didn't apply, right? I then proceed to think to myself, but wait, this really makes sense to me. This explanation not only makes sense, but it makes sense to me. I then would start kind of bringing up some questions of the kinds of, so wait, are you sure that you didn't you're not thinking it like in this way or in this way or in that way? And then I could see her then actually questioning her own judgment. And this is the weird part. At the time, deep down, I, in my gut, would feel like what I was doing was a little wrong, but I wasn't sure why I felt it was wrong. And because the video made sense to me and it seemed like a possible solution, I ignored it and just kind of rolled with it anyways. Fast forward to the breakup moment when I'm, having that memory, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Some of these very things that were being done to me when I was growing up, I picked up on these habits and I didn't even realize them for what they were. So it's like I made multiple aha connect, moments, like, oh, connect. And then I hit that fork in the road and I'm like, it's time to exercise that card. It's time to exercise that card, And it's crazy because in exercising that card, that, at least in my opinion, that almost necessarily states that some of these habits that I have, whether they were just passed down by, habitual or maybe like more biological, because apparently there's, I think some theories that go like, oh, if nature, like nature versus nurture, like is it nature versus, or is it like, nurture, right? I don't know. Ultimately, who knows? Maybe it's a mix of both. But it was that fork in the road. I'm like, you know what? I don't know which one it is. I don't know whether it's patterns, neurons, demons, spirits. A lot of these things seem to overlap. I'm just gonna hack at it however I can because I made a pact to myself that I would never treat somebody the same way that I felt treated when I was like 10, 15, years old or whatever. And in some ways, that is some of the fire that still drives me forward right now. So, yeah, and I guess I'll leave it at that for now. I feel like something else wants to come out, but I'll leave it at that for now.